Far away from the busy trade routes of the galaxy, there was a small colony that many had already forgotten. The colony belonged to the Lums, a gentle people who lived under soft lights and grew food in wide fields. For years they had lived quietly, without asking for much. Their world was not rich in resources, so the larger powers of the galaxy cared little for them. The Lums were content with this. They wanted peace, not attention. Then the storms came. At first, the Lums thought it was only a bad season. But the storms grew stronger with each cycle. Winds tore through their villages, breaking homes and farms. The rivers became brown with dirt, and the food storage began to rot. Whole harvests were lost. The Lums, who had no long history of fighting nature, struggled. Their bodies were not strong enough to work in the wild storms. They were not trained to face disaster. In their desperation, the leaders of the colony gathered in a circle around a broken transmitter. It was old, left behind by traders long ago. They worked together to repair it, their hands shaking not from fear but from exhaustion. When the device finally lit up, they sent a single message into the dark. "Help us. Please, if any listen, we need aid. We are the Lums of Aurea. We cannot survive much longer." The message repeated again and again. Days passed. Then weeks. No reply came. The transmitter grew quiet, and many began to believe that no one cared. The stars above Aurea remained cold and silent. But far across space, a signal reached an old human vessel. The ship was not grand. It was not painted with the colors of any empire. It was simply a ship of wanderers, humans who traveled from one end of the galaxy to another, carrying supplies and helping where they could. The crew was small, but they had lived through storms of their own. On Earth, their home world, danger was part of life. Earth was known by others as a death world because of its harsh lands and powerful creatures. Humans had grown used to adapting and enduring. When the message came through the static, the crew gathered to listen. They heard the soft, tired voice of a Lum repeating the call. The humans did not laugh or dismiss it. Instead, they sat in silence, listening to the words of people who sounded broken yet still hoped for a reply. One of the crew, Myra, spoke first. "They sound like they have been left behind." Another, Aaron, nodded. "No one else will answer them. You know how the galaxy talks about us. They expect us to be too busy surviving our own troubles." The captain, an older man named Danis, looked at his crew. His eyes carried the weight of many journeys, but also a spark of determination. "If no one else will go, then we will. This is why we wander. To find those who are forgotten." And so, the course was set. Days turned into weeks as the ship crossed the stars. The humans prepared supplies, tools, and what little food they could spare. None of them spoke much of fear, for fear was not new to them. What mattered was reaching Aurea before the Lums lost all hope. At last, the human vessel appeared in the sky above the storm-beaten world. From the ground, the Lums gathered, their large eyes filled with both wonder and worry. Stories of humans had reached them before. Some said humans were too dangerous, creatures of a death world who brought chaos wherever they went. Others whispered that humans were fierce but loyal, standing like stone when others would fall. The Lums did not know which story was true. The human ship descended slowly, cutting through the dust-filled air. Its engines hummed like distant thunder. For the first time in months, the Lums felt a new emotion rising within them. It was not fear. It was not despair. It was something they had almost forgotten. It was hope. The humans had heard their cry, and now they had come. The storm had finally settled when the human ship landed. The Lums gathered at a distance, their cloaks pulled tight against the cold wind. They had lived many months in fear, yet now their hearts beat with a new kind of tension. They had called for help, but they did not expect humans to be the ones to arrive. From the ship's ramp, the humans stepped onto the soil of Aurea. Their boots sank slightly into the wet ground, but they moved with steady steps, their faces calm. The Lums studied them closely. Their bodies looked strong, built for movement and labor. Their eyes scanned the world as if nothing could frighten them. The leader of the Lums colony, Elder Ryan, stood at the front of his people. His voice trembled, though not with anger. "You came. You truly came. We did not think anyone would hear us." Captain Danis stepped forward, his voice deep but kind. "We heard, Elder. Your message reached us, and we could not turn away. We are here to help, if you will allow us." The Lums glanced at one another. Stories from traders had always spoken of humans as unpredictable. Some tales painted them as dangerous creatures from a death world who fought storms with bare hands. Others said they were loyal allies, unyielding in friendship. The truth was unclear. Yet when the humans looked upon them, their eyes carried no threat, only determination. Myra, one of the crew, knelt to inspect the broken stone walls of a nearby shelter. Her hands ran over the cracks, and she spoke softly, "These can be rebuilt, but you need stronger foundations. Stone and earth together will hold better than wood alone." The Lums watched as she sketched quick designs in the dirt, showing how the walls could be strengthened. Her actions were simple, but they carried weight. She did not come with weapons. She came with knowledge. Aaron walked toward the damaged water channel that once carried clean streams through the colony. He crouched down, touching the muddy water, and frowned. "Contaminated," he said to Danis. "But with the right filters, we can fix it." He began unpacking small metal cylinders from his bag, showing the Lums how water could be cleaned and stored. The children of the Lums peeked from behind their parents, their large eyes wide with curiosity. They whispered to one another about the humans' strong arms and strange tools. One little one, braver than the rest, stepped closer to Myra and tugged gently at her sleeve. Myra looked down, smiled, and offered a small piece of dried fruit from her pouch. The child tasted it, then laughed, the sound carrying through the weary crowd like the first spark of fire on a cold night. Elder Ryan's voice grew steadier as he spoke again. "We had thought ourselves abandoned. For many cycles, no one came. We feared we would vanish, and no one would remember us." Captain Danis shook his head. "You are not forgotten. Not while we can stand. You asked for help, and that is enough. We will work with you, and together we will bring life back to this place." The Lums felt something shift inside them. For so long they had waited, weak and uncertain. Now they saw people who faced the storms without hesitation. When the winds rose again that evening, the humans did not run to shelter as the Lums did. Instead, they pulled their cloaks tighter and kept working, carrying stones, repairing roofs, and anchoring loose beams. The storms that had broken the Lums will seem to only challenge the humans to push harder. Night came, and the colony gathered around a fire. The humans shared simple food with the Lums, showing how to cook roots and grains so they would last longer. The children sat close, listening as Myra told stories of Earth, of forests filled with animals and oceans that could rise into violent waves. The Lums gasped at the dangers of her world, but Myra only smiled. "We learned to live with them," she said. "We learned to survive. That is why we are here with you now." As the flames flickered, Elder Ryan leaned toward Captain Danis. "Perhaps the stories were true. Humans are dangerous. But not in the way we thought. You are dangerous to despair itself." Danis looked at the elder, his eyes reflecting the firelight. "We have no choice. On our world, we would not live if we gave up. And now, you must learn the same. Not because you are alone, but because we will stand beside you." That night, for the first time in many cycles, the Lums slept with lighter hearts. Outside, the wind still roared, but within the colony there was new strength. The humans had come, not as conquerors, but as allies. Their presence carried a message louder than any words. Hope had returned, and it was walking on human feet. The days after the humans' arrival were filled with work. The colony of the Lums, once filled with broken homes and weak walls, began to change slowly. Where fear and silence had ruled, now there was sound. The sound of stones being lifted, wood being cut, and voices calling to one another in hope. The humans did not waste time. Myra showed the Lums how to mix clay with stone to build walls that could stand against the strong winds. She worked beside them, her hands covered in dust, never asking them to do what she would not do herself. The Lums admired this. Their people had never been builders of strongholds. They had always trusted the gentleness of their world. Now they learned that gentleness alone was not enough. Strength had to stand beside it. Children followed Myra wherever she went. They loved the way she laughed even when her arms ached from lifting heavy stones. One young Lum named Nira asked her, "Do you not grow tired?" Myra smiled at the child and answered, "Of course I grow tired. But I keep moving, because if I stop, the storm will not wait for me. On my world, you must walk even when your legs want to rest." Aaron spent his days by the rivers and wells. He built simple filters from metal, cloth, and sand. The Lums watched in amazement as he poured muddy water through a cylinder and clear water dripped into a bowl. He explained each step carefully so they could make their own filters in the future. "Clean water is life," he told them. "Once you can drink without fear, you can think about building and planting again." Soon, the Lums began to copy what they had learned. They carried stones the way Myra had shown them. They gathered sand and cloth for the filters the way Aaron had taught them. The colony, which once waited helplessly for rescue, started to move with its own hands and strength. At night, the humans and the Lums sat together around fires. Stories passed between them. The Lums spoke of the gentle lights of their ancestors that once guided them through peaceful times. The humans spoke of Earth, a world filled with both beauty and danger. They told of tall mountains, deep oceans, and storms that could shake the ground. The Lums listened with wide eyes. To them, Earth sounded terrifying. Yet the humans spoke of it with pride. They described how every challenge had taught them to endure, how every hardship had made them stronger. Elder Ryan, listening quietly, said, "Perhaps this is why you came to us. Where others see weakness, you see a chance to stand firm." The bond between the two peoples grew. When storms returned, the humans did not hide. Instead, they anchored roofs with ropes, guided the Lums into safe shelters, and worked until the wind settled. The Lums, inspired, began to stand beside them instead of fleeing. Slowly, fear gave way to courage. One evening, after many days of work, the colony gathered to see the first new home completed. It was built of stone and clay, stronger than any house they had known. The walls stood tall, and the roof was firm. The Lums cheered, their voices filled with joy that had long been missing. Myra turned to them and said, "This is only the beginning. Each stone we place is proof that you will not fall." The children danced around the new home, their laughter filling the air. For the first time in months, the colony looked not like a place of despair but like a place of life. Still, questions rested in the minds of some Lums. One of them, a farmer named Iril, asked Aaron, "Why do you help us? You gain nothing here. We are poor, and we have little to give." Aaron paused before answering. "On Earth, we learned something important. If we wait for others to help us, we may wait forever. But if someone cries for help, and we have the strength to answer, then we must go. That is the way we live. That is the way we stand." The word spread through the colony. The Lums began to see the humans not as dangerous strangers but as guardians, as friends who had chosen to walk beside them without asking for reward. Elder Ryan spoke to his people after hearing Aaron's words. "Perhaps the galaxy was wrong. Perhaps humans are not dangerous because they seek to harm. Perhaps they are dangerous because they refuse to surrender, and now they teach us to do the same. That night, as the firelight glowed on their faces, the humans and the Lums shared food and quiet laughter. Above them, the stars shone brighter than they had seemed in many months. The storms had not ended, but something stronger than storms now lived in the colony. It was trust, built stone by stone, and it held firm like the new walls rising against the sky. The colony of the Lums had begun to breathe again. Stronger homes now stood where broken shelters once fell. Clear water flowed through simple filters, and food was stored safely in new containers. Children laughed again, and the nights were filled with the warmth of fires and the sound of voices sharing stories. The humans worked each day beside the Lums, never asking for reward. Hope had returned, yet beneath the surface of this hope, unease was waiting to rise. It began when a small trading vessel arrived from the outer routes. The traders, a pair of tall thin beings with quick eyes, sold simple supplies in exchange for dried fruit and metal scraps. They carried news as well, and it was their news that turned joy into worry. "Your world has been watched," one trader told Elder Ryan as they rested in the square. "The storms are not endless. When they weaken, others will come. The Zevri will come." At the sound of that name, many Lums lowered their heads. The Zevri were not strangers. Long ago, when the colony first struggled with trade, the Zevri had offered help. They had brought tools and promised fair exchange. But when the Lums could not pay more than the value of their crops, the Zevri left them behind. In time, they returned only to take what they wanted, ignoring the needs of the colony. The storms had driven them away for a while, but if they returned now, it would not be with kindness. Elder Ryan spoke slowly. "We have nothing for them now. Why would they come?" The trader gave a thin smile. "The storms have uncovered rich soil and stone. The Zevri will see value where you see only hardship. They do not come to help. They come to claim." When the traders left, whispers spread quickly through the colony. The Lums feared the Zevri, for they remembered betrayal too well. Many gathered around the humans, speaking in worried voices. "They will take our land. They will demand what we cannot give. We cannot stop them." Myra listened, her face calm though her heart was troubled. She turned to Aaron and Captain Danis. "The Lums are right. If the Zevri come, they will not care for what has been built here. They will see only resources." Aaron folded his arms, his eyes sharp. "They will not find an easy prize. Not while we are here." Danis did not speak at once. He looked over the colony, watching the Lums gather in fear. His voice, when it came, was steady. "The Zevri betrayed them once. To humans, betrayal is not forgotten. If they come to take, they will find something different waiting." That evening, Elder Ryan asked the humans to sit with him by the fire. His voice was heavy with concern. "We have no weapons. We are not fighters. If the Zevri come, we cannot resist. We do not wish to bring you into danger." Danis shook his head firmly. "You asked for help, and we answered. Help is not only building homes and cleaning water. Help is also standing when shadows return. We will not leave you." The elder's eyes filled with tears, though his voice remained soft. "But why? Why would you risk so much for us, when others turned away?" Myra answered gently. "Because we know what it means to be abandoned. On Earth, storms, beasts, and hunger never showed mercy. We survived only because we stood together. When we see others left behind, we cannot walk away. To us, that would be the true danger." The words spread among the Lums, carried from one ear to another. Soon, a new phrase rose in whispers around the colony. They said the humans carried vengeance, but not a vengeance of cruelty. It was the vengeance of justice, of refusing to let betrayal win again. The Lums began to prepare, guided by the humans. They did not build weapons, but they built stronger walls and hidden storage for food. They set signals at the edges of their land to warn of approaching ships. The children were taught simple drills, where to run and how to gather safely if strangers arrived. The humans moved quietly but with purpose. They did not speak of fighting. They spoke only of standing. Their calm strength was like a shield, and it gave the Lums courage they had never known. One night, as the colony rested, Aaron stood at the edge of the fields, watching the storm clouds drift across the sky. Myra joined him, her voice quiet. "Do you think they will come soon?" Aaron nodded. "Yes. Greed is quick. But when they come, they will see that this colony is no longer weak." Myra looked back at the lights of the homes where Lums and humans shared laughter around their fires. "And they will learn that betrayal does not stand forever." The wind carried her words into the night. The Lums slept in their homes, fearful but no longer helpless, while above them the stars shone cold and steady. Somewhere in the distance, ships moved through space, and whispers of betrayal grew closer. But in the heart of Aurea, the humans stood ready. The days of steady work had brought peace back to the colony. The new home stood firm, the water was safe to drink, and food was stored in dry places. The Lums began to sing again as they worked, and children laughed as they played in the courtyards. For the first time in many cycles, the colony felt alive. Yet peace often walks with a shadow. It happened when a small trading ship appeared in the sky above Aurea. The Lums welcomed the traders, as they always had in the past, offering dried fruit and simple crafts in exchange for salt and tools. The humans also greeted them, though with careful eyes. Traders brought goods, but they also carried stories, and sometimes stories were heavier than cargo. The taller trader, whose eyes darted from one human to another, spoke in a sharp voice. "We have heard that this colony still stands, even after the storms. But others have heard the same news. The Zevri have begun to speak of Aurea again." At the name Zevri, a silence fell across the courtyard. The Lums lowered their heads, and Elder Ryan's hands trembled slightly. The trader continued, his voice calm but cold. "The storms uncovered rich ground. Stone and minerals now lie bare. The Zevri say the land is wasted here. They believe you cannot protect it." When the traders left, the colony grew restless. In every corner of Aurea, whispers rose. "They will come. They will take what they want. We have no power to stop them." Fear returned like a chill wind. The Lums remembered too well. The Zevri had once come as friends, smiling and promising fair trade. But when the Lums could no longer pay, the smiles vanished. The Zevri had stripped what they wanted and left the colony weaker than before. To the Lums, the Zevri were a reminder that kindness could be betrayed. That night, Elder Ryan called a gathering in the square. The Lums filled the place, their voices heavy with worry. "If the Zevri return, what will happen to us?" one farmer asked. "We cannot face them. They have ships and power." The elder looked at the humans. His voice was careful. "We are grateful for all you have done. But if the Zevri come, you should leave. We do not wish to pull you into our fate." Captain Danis stood tall, his voice firm. "We did not come here only to build walls and clean water. We came because you asked for help. And help is not given only when it is easy. If the Zevri come, we will stand with you." The crowd stirred, but doubt remained. A young Lum spoke, his eyes filled with fear. "But why? Why would you risk so much for us, when even our old allies left us behind?" Myra stepped forward. Her voice was gentle, but it carried strength. "Because we know what it feels like to be left alone. On our world, danger is part of every day. We learned long ago that if someone cries for help, and we can answer, then we must. That is the way of humans." Her words spread from one Lum to another. Slowly, the fearful whispers began to change. The humans will not leave. They do not forget a promise. They carry something stronger than fear. The humans began to prepare the colony in quiet ways. They showed the Lums how to hide food stores beneath the ground, safe from raiders. They built warning posts at the edges of the valley so that lights would signal if ships approached. They strengthened homes not only against storms but also against intruders. No weapons were made. No armies were raised. Yet the colony was no longer defenseless. Every stone placed, every trench dug, carried the spirit of standing firm. The Lums watched the humans closely. They saw how calm they remained even when speaking of the Zevri. To the humans, the threat was real, but it was not final. Their eyes carried no fear, only resolve. One evening, as the fires burned low, Elder Ryan spoke quietly to Danis. "The galaxy calls you Deathworlders. We thought it meant you were dangerous to others. Now I see the truth. You are dangerous not because of cruelty, but because you do not yield. Even betrayal cannot break you." Danis answered, his voice steady. "Betrayal is heavy, but it does not end us. When we stand with others, we carry them through it. That is our way." The elder lowered his head in respect. For the first time, he believed that the Zevri would not find Oria weak. That night, while storms whispered across the hills, the colony rested with a strange new feeling. Fear still lived in their hearts, but beside it walked something stronger. The humans had given it a name without speaking it aloud. It was the promise of standing together, even when betrayal returned. The colony of Oria had changed since the humans arrived. Homes stood firm, water flowed clear, and the fields were ready for planting again. Yet the shadow of the Zevri lingered. Stories of their greed and betrayal haunted the Lums. Every night, whispers reminded them that the Zevri might return. The humans did not speak of revenge, but their presence carried a quiet warning. They walked through the colony with steady steps, repairing homes, teaching the Lums, and strengthening their resolve. Where fear had once ruled, now courage began to grow. Captain Danis called a meeting at the center of the village. "The Zevri may come," he said calmly. "We cannot stop them with anger. But we can stop them with preparation and unity. That is how we protect what is ours." Elder Ryan listened carefully, then nodded. "We have no weapons. We cannot fight like others. But we can learn your way. We can stand." The humans began their work in practical ways. They reinforced walls with stone and clay. They built small hidden storage units for food so that if anyone came to take it, the colony would still have enough. They set up lookout points at the edges of the hills, simple towers with ropes and signals to warn of approaching ships. The Lums learned quickly. They helped lift stones, carry water, and repair broken tools. Children were given tasks that matched their strength, like carrying small stones or gathering clay. No one was left idle. Everyone had a role. Slowly, the colony became a place of action, not fear. Myra worked closely with the Lum women, teaching them how to strengthen walls and secure roofs. One of the women, Tira, asked, "Do we not need weapons to defend ourselves?" Myra shook her head. "Strength is not always in fighting. Strength is in standing together, knowing what to do, and not letting fear rule your mind. If they come, they will find a colony that will not break, even without weapons." Aaron taught the Lum men how to read the signals at the lookout towers. "If we see ships coming, we alert the others immediately. Everyone moves to safe spots. That way, they will find nothing to take, and we will remain ready." The children practiced as well. They learned where to hide, how to help gather food quickly, and how to stay calm when storms or intruders approached. Lums who had once run from the wind now ran with purpose, carrying buckets of water or tying down loose boards with ropes. As the days passed, whispers began to circulate among the Lums. They spoke not of fear but of determination. "The humans do not fight with anger," one elder said. but they are strong enough that no one will dare break us. The Zevri may come, a farmer added, but they will not find easy prey. We have learned to stand. Even at night, the humans did not rest entirely. They checked the lookout points, repaired tools, and planned for what might come. Yet their eyes carried no hatred. They did not seek revenge. Their vengeance was not cruelty. It was justice. They refused to allow betrayal to succeed. One evening, as the sun set behind the hills, Captain Danis and Elder Ryan walked through the village. The fires burned in every home, and families moved with quiet purpose. Children carried small bundles of food, and adults adjusted the ropes and stones they had worked with all day. Ryan spoke softly, "I did not believe it was possible. How can your kind be so strong without fighting?" Danis smiled gently. "Strength is not only in striking. It is in holding the line when others would fall, in teaching others to stand with you, and in making sure betrayal never wins again." The elder nodded, watching the people of his colony move with confidence. "You bring vengeance beside mercy. You do not harm, yet you protect. That is a power we have never known." Myra appeared then, carrying a basket of food. She placed it by a small family and said, "Tomorrow, we plant seeds. Today, we rest. Tomorrow, we grow stronger together. That is the way we endure. That is the way we will face what comes." The night was quiet, except for the crackle of fires and the soft wind across the fields. Outside the village, the hills waited, holding the lookout towers. Somewhere in the distance, the Zevri might be moving closer, seeking what they thought easy to take. But the colony was no longer weak. They were ready. The humans had taught them to stand, to act, and to endure. Vengeance walked beside them, not in anger but in protection. The Lums could feel it in the steady hands of the humans, in the careful plans, and in the calm that replaced fear. As the stars shone above Aurea, the colony slept with confidence. They knew that no matter what came, they would not fall. They were no longer victims. They were alive, united, and ready to meet the challenges ahead. The sky above Aurea was calm, but tension hung in the air. The lookout towers the humans had built stood tall on the hills, ropes tied tightly, and signals ready. The Lums moved quietly through the village, their eyes alert. The Zevri had been warned, and soon they would arrive. At dawn, a faint glimmer appeared on the horizon. It was the first sign of ships moving through the clouds. The Lums gathered in the center of the village, their children close, while the humans prepared quietly, checking ropes, walls, and supplies. Captain Danis looked across the colony. "Remember," he said, "we do not fight with anger. We do not seek to harm. We only stand. That is how we protect this place." The Zevri ships grew closer, their sleek metal cutting through the morning light. Their leaders expected an easy target, a colony weakened by storms and time. But when they arrived, they found walls reinforced with stone and clay, lookout towers staffed with Lums, and humans moving steadily beside them. The Zevri commander, a tall being with sharp eyes, scanned the village. "This is not what we expected," he said to his second in command. "We thought they would be weak." From the ground, Elder Ryan watched, standing beside Myra and Aaron. His voice was steady. "We are not the same colony you left behind. We have learned to stand, and we are not alone." The Zevri called for surrender, demanding access to the fields and food stores. But the humans remained calm. Danis stepped forward, his hands empty, his eyes firm. "This colony is protected," he said. "You will take nothing here unless it is freely given. We will not allow betrayal again." The Zevri laughed at first, thinking the humans were bluffing. They had heard stories of Deathworlders, but they did not know the truth. The humans did not carry weapons, yet their presence was stronger than any army. Their calm determination made the Zevri hesitate. Meanwhile, the Lums moved as they had been trained. Children carried messages between lookout towers. Adults reinforced doors and hidden storage. Nothing was done in panic. Every action was careful, every movement purposeful. The colony moved as one, guided by the humans' steady example. The Zevri commander studied the humans again. "They do not fear us," he whispered. "Why do they not strike?" Danis answered in thought, though the Zevri could not hear. "Because strength is not only in striking. It is in standing, in teaching others to stand, and in showing that betrayal will not succeed." Hours passed, and the Zevri realized that taking anything from Oria would not be simple. There were no weapons to steal, no easy stores of food, and no fear to exploit. The colony had become a living shield, every member aware, every person ready. Elder Ryan stepped forward, his voice carrying across the village. "We are ready," he said. "We have learned from those who taught us to stand. We do not seek war, but we do not cower. If you come to take, you will find nothing but unity and courage." The Zevri commander looked at the humans standing beside the Lums. He saw the calm in their eyes, the strength in their hands, and the certainty in their stance. For the first time, he realized that this colony would not be easy to break. Slowly, the Zevri ships began to retreat. They had hoped for easy gain, but there was nothing to claim without a fight, and they were not prepared to face a united colony with humans beside them. The clouds swallowed the ships as they left, and a quiet cheer rose from the village. The Lums turned to the humans, their faces full of gratitude. "You did not strike them," Elder Ryan said. "And yet, we are safe. How can this be?" Myra smiled. "Strength is not always in attacking. Sometimes, standing together, showing that you will not yield, is stronger than any weapon." Aaron added, "We carry vengeance, yes, but it is not cruelty. It is the refusal to allow betrayal to succeed again. That is the power humans bring, and it now flows in this colony as well." The sun rose higher, casting warm light across the village. Children ran through the courtyards, carrying small bundles of food. Adults repaired minor damage and checked the lookout towers. For the first time, the Lums understood that they were no longer helpless. They had learned from the humans, and together, they could face anything. Elder Ryan looked at the humans, his heart full. "You came to help us, not to take, not to harm, but to teach us to stand. That is a gift greater than anything else. We are no longer a colony of fear. We are a colony of strength." Captain Danis nodded quietly. "You have learned well. Remember, it is not the storm or the enemies that break a colony. It is the loss of hope. You have hope now, and it will carry you further than any walls or towers." As the day went on, the village returned to life. The Zevri ships were gone, at least for now, but the lessons remained. Oria had changed. The Lums had learned to stand, the humans had taught them courage, and together, they had shown that unity could face even the greatest threats. The colony no longer waited for rescue. They were ready for whatever came next, and the humans who had arrived as strangers now stood as guardians, their calm strength beside every Lum, guiding them into a future of hope and resilience. The storm had passed, and for the first time in many cycles, Oria was quiet. The sky glowed with soft light, and the air carried the smell of fresh earth. The village looked different now. Homes stood firm, fields were ready for planting, and small fires burned in the courtyards as families began their day. The Lums moved with confidence. Where they had once hurried in fear, they now walked steadily, carrying tools, water, and food. Children laughed and played, running between the adults with baskets of grain. The humans walked among them, helping, teaching, and guiding, yet the presence of hope was no longer theirs alone. It had become the heart of the colony itself. Elder Ryan stood on the highest hill, overlooking the village. He had lived long enough to see cycles of storms, failure, and loss. But he had never seen anything like this. The humans had arrived as strangers, yet they had given the Lums a gift far greater than any tool or wall. They had given them courage, unity, and the strength to stand against what had once seemed impossible. Captain Danis joined him, his gaze sweeping across the fields. "The Zevri will not come again so easily," he said. "They know now that this colony cannot be broken by fear or weakness." Ryan nodded. "They may return someday, but it will not matter. We have learned to stand. We are no longer helpless." Myra moved past them, carrying a bundle of seeds for planting. She knelt to hand them to a group of Lum children. "Plant these carefully," she said, smiling. "The future grows from our hands, not from hope alone." The children nodded eagerly, their eyes bright. They had learned more than planting. They had learned to move with purpose, to act with care, and to trust in their own strength. Even the smallest Lums now carried responsibility, helping others in ways that had once seemed impossible. In the center of the village, Aaron supervised the final preparations for a new water system. Clear streams now ran through channels lined with stone, and every household had access to clean water. "You see," he said to a group of Lum adults, "when you work together and plan carefully, even small actions can protect many. Strength is in unity, not in fear." The villagers worked with a quiet pride, their movements no longer hurried but steady and confident. Where once the colony had trembled at storms and feared the return of enemies, now they moved as one. Each person understood their role, and each knew they were not alone. Elder Ryan looked around, watching families settle into their rebuilt homes. "We called for help," he said softly, "and we expected strangers to arrive. Instead, we found friends who taught us to stand, friends who carried vengeance not in anger, but in protection. That is the power of their kind, and now it is ours as well." Captain Danis smiled at the elder. "Vengeance is not always cruelty," he said. "Sometimes, it is the refusal to let betrayal succeed. We do not harm unnecessarily, but we do not yield either. That lesson belongs to you now." The sun rose higher, painting the village with warm light. The Lums gathered in the central square, not for fear or warning, but for celebration. Children danced, parents laughed, and even the elders moved with careful joy. The humans joined them, but the feeling of strength was no longer theirs alone. Myra knelt to a child named Nira, who had learned to carry small stones for building walls. "You see what you can do," Myra said. "When people work together, no storm or enemy can take what they have built." Nira nodded proudly, understanding in her own way that courage was not just in adults, but in everyone who chose to stand. Elder Ryan raised his hands, calling for attention. "Today, we are not just a colony of survivors," he said. "We are a colony of strength. We have learned from our friends who came from a faraway world. Together, we have faced storms and fear. Together, we will face the future." A cheer rose from the crowd. The sound was clear and bright, carrying across the fields and into the hills. The humans smiled, knowing their task was done. They had not only helped repair a village, but they had taught a people to believe in themselves. As the day continued, families began planting new seeds, repairing final walls, and carrying water with ease. The children ran freely, no longer afraid of storms or shadows. The Lums had learned to stand, and the humans had shown them the way. The sky above Oria was calm and full of light. The storms had passed, the Zevri were gone, and the colony had become stronger than ever before. Hope had returned, not as a fragile dream, but as a living force, built in stone, water, and the hearts of every Lum who chose to stand. In the quiet that followed, Elder Ryan whispered to himself, "We were abandoned once. Now, we are ready. We are not afraid. We are alive, and we will continue to grow." Captain Danis, watching from the hill, nodded. The humans had come, answered a call for help, and left a legacy that would endure. Oria was no longer a place of weakness. It was a new dawn, and the future belonged to those who had learned to stand together.